Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, it looks like George Michael may be on the way back because they're trying to arrange a virtual concert with him and his former musical partner, Andrew Ridgeley. Now, you might remember George Michael. He's the one that had that really annoying Christmas song called Last Christmas. He also had a number of other hits here, such as Careless Whisper. But long before that, back in the 80s, he was part of a popular duo which was called Wham. Wham was very famous. It was a pop group with George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley. Now, George Michael died many years ago, 2016 actually, he passed away. Andrew Ridgeley is still around, and he's considering bringing back Wham with George Michael. As you might know, ABBA, the pop group from the 1970s, are currently enjoying their revival because they did an AI virtual concert. So, Andrew Ridgeley thinks it would be really good to bring George Michael back to have a concert with him. Now, there's all kinds of ethical issues with this, and there's all kinds of question marks. But, of course, if something is going to make money, then that's, I suppose, their driving force. Just to step aside from that for a second, we often use the word drive to talk about the amount of energy or the amount of spirit that we have for particular things. For example, a sportsman, you can talk about his competitive drive, how much drive he has to get something finished. People these days who are known to have a lot of drive, people like maybe Sir Alan Sugar or Elon Musk. Elon Musk, his competitive drive is very, very strong, isn't it? So we use the word drive sometimes to describe that. Also, we talk about driving someone crazy. So you can see there's different ways to use this word, drive. But when it's used as a noun, it's often spoken as a possessive, his drive. So, for example, someone's competitive drive. Some companies have sales drives. And of course, that's where you focus all your energy for a particular week or month to sell a product. It can be used in many different ways when we talk about driving energy. For example, the government started a drive to improve standards in schools. Or, she has a lot of drive and ambition. So, drive has many other meanings as well. In farming, it can also mean to make the animals move in a particular direction. She drove them all back into the field. Means she got them to move into the field. So, yeah, it's better to really check that word out, drive. But commonly, it's used to talk about pushing a type of energy forward or the amount of energy somebody has. So just to give you a couple more examples on that, let me see. So, for example, the one about she has a lot of drive and ambition is really good. She has a lot of competitive drive, meaning that she's very ambitious. The example of a verb, she drove all the animals into the field. I don't know why I'm saying she. Well, anyway, speaking again, just to go back to my topic about George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley, I don't know if I'm okay with bringing pop stars back from the dead for concerts, because when this really starts happening a lot, are we going to forget that the people aren't real? I don't know. I have ethical concerns about this because it's not actually real. And what about the people who are still creating and making music who are real? Are we going to forget about them just because we're hanging on to the past or can recreate things artificially? You know, I was talking to someone the other day and he said, "Where do you get all these ideas for your podcast? Are you using AI?" And I said, no, no. In fact, I've been podcasting long before AI was even thought of. So, no, absolutely not. But it seems these days, if you want something done quick, you don't think about it. You just ask AI. And the other day, I was sent a link that Google's AI is now ready. I think it's called Band, is it? Or Brand. It was a little bit strange. I tried it yesterday just to see what it was like, but I couldn't get any sense out of it. So I don't know. Maybe it needs a little bit more work, maybe, or maybe it's something for the future. But I don't like that kind of thing. I don't mind playing with it for a few minutes, but I very quickly get bored with it unless I can see a real use for it. Anyway, what do you think about George Michael coming back to do a virtual concert? I mean, he's clearly loved here. In June, one of our TV channels dedicated a 3-hour concert to him. I suppose it would seem natural for them to create some kind of virtual reality. To use the English phrase, home is where your heart is. And I think in this case, money is where a lot of hearts are these days when decisions are being made to try to capture audiences. And then, of course, because of that, that raises another question about how you can use dead people in order to make a lot of money. It sounds a bit morbid and strange, doesn't it? So again, lots of ethics there. Well, nobody knows if this concert with George Michael is actually going to go ahead. Andrew Ridgeley is thinking about it, but he still needs to ask the George Michael estate, which is George Michael's trust fund, which looks after his recordings and his brand. So nobody knows really what's going to happen. So although it might be a nice idea, maybe the trust fund won't like the idea, but the way the world is going, the way everything is moving forward so fast, I think we can expect more of these things to change our reality, particularly around entertainment. I remember my grandmother told me that when radio was invented, yeah, she really was that old. When radio was invented, they actually thought that they were going to be able to communicate with dead people. I mean, for them, they had not a fear about it. They actually sat in front of the radio, moving the frequencies, hoping to find some kind of voice from the past that they recognized. And it shows that obviously it was marketed in such a way that it was a way for people to communicate. And they obviously didn't understand it. So maybe we're on some kind of discovery or on the edge of some kind of major change in society as to how we view the dead. I mean, it's only a matter of time before they invent some way from a photograph to create a virtual reality with the person in the photograph to be brought back. So that's kind of worrying, isn't it? I mean, even now, I think, is it Ancestry.com? One of the major players in genealogy can offer you some kind of virtual reality with an old photo. So it's hard to imagine how this is going to change our perception of reality. I was never a big fan of George Michael anyway. Well, just to give you a little phrase that we often use in English when something is about to change, we say that we are on the brink. On the brink. And when you're on the brink of something, it means that you're on the edge of something. Okay, it's usually used in some kind of a way for something which is apocalyptic or disastrous. For example, a company is on the brink of going bankrupt is quite a common phrase. Or let me think, a shop is on the brink of closing down. But in a positive way, it can be used as well. I'm on the brink of booking a new holiday. I'm on the brink of quitting my career and doing something new. So on the brink, it just means to be at that moment of decision where you're about to do something or embark on something different, to be on the brink. So yeah, I suppose society as we know it is on the brink of change right now. We're all being taken higher to see things from a different perspective. Speaking of being on the brink, I see our local government is saying that they have no money and they're £8 million in debt. They're on the brink of collapse. I don't know what happens when a local government collapses. Many of our governments up and down the country, well, when I say many, I mean quite a lot, have collapsed in recent years. Around COVID time, a few went under. There is a procedure for it. I mean, our governments have, our central government has a rule about it and what has to happen. But to be honest, Britain's no different from any other country in the world. The service we get from the government is crazy. It's full of people who just don't want to know. You know, we all have to deal with the government in each of our countries, and it's always the same. You get people who really, really don't care. And the service you get is awful because their idea is, well, I just work for the government, you know. I can treat you in any way that I want. And this is what I liked about making things private. You know, when Margaret Thatcher came along, she privatized everything, and suddenly people were forced to give a good service or be fired. But we're kind of going the opposite way again. Buses are becoming public, trains are now becoming part of the government infrastructure again. Yeah, it's kind of going into reverse. And here we have local governments collapsing. And it's not just my local government. There's a few others around that are saying there's a possibility they're going to collapse. A local government can't actually go bankrupt. It's different when it's the government. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going to rise up from this. So it'll be interesting. I'll keep you informed on that, although I really hate politics. It's not something that I like. But there we are. So George Michael may be coming back from the dead. So we'll see. I never really liked him, but we'll see what happens. See you. Bye.